Greetings all, I'm Fu. This is part 11 of your Republic Commando build thread. We're going to get into the calves today. This is the most difficult part of the build. You're going to have to do some fabrication work, you're going to have to be creative with how you do things, and you're going to go through more glue on your calves than you've gone through on any other piece so far. But it works this way. Talon and Skip used a front to back mold for their calves. The PA kit is going to be a left-right mold. There's advantages and disadvantages to both. When you look at the PA kit, it's going to have a double front. They extend it over the front of each lip so that you can do a front closure and seamless around the back. The difficult part with that is on that back edge where that seam meets, since that's where all your tension is when you're opening and closing that leg to put it on. You've really got to do a good shim on the inside there, and even then you're going to get cracking in your paint after a while. With the front and back, it adds the difficulty of, okay, how do I make this seamless, or at least with a good closure so that I can't see what's going on. I've done a modification so that we can do a front closure for the finished product here. This is the calf as I've got it finished right now. You can see I shim the insides like normal, and I've got a front opening so that you can open it up, slide it up over your ankle, and then we're going to use industrial Velcro in here. I'll be doing a secondary part list for assembly coming up soon, but this is what it's going to look like when you're done, so that you can overlap it, get a good closure on there. So what I had to fabricate was this secondary lip. I used some hips, which you can get at craft stores, or if you have a plastic manufacturer in the area, just go in and ask them if they have any spare hips. It stands for high impact polystyrene. It's much softer. It's got a much lower melt point than ABS. You can use the extra ABS that Talon sends with the kit. You're just going to need a heat gun. A hairdryer won't do it. So what I did is I took my hips and I cut a length that matched the inside of the flat portion. Now to match that curve, I heated it up with my hairdryer. If you're using the ABS, you're going to need a heat gun. And you work on one curve at a time. So you're going to get torqued out in there, and you're going to set it into that curve. If you've got another set of hands to help you out, this is where it comes in real handy, so that you can be bending it. If you wear gloves, this will be much easier, otherwise your hands are going to get too hot. Over accentuate that curve, and then hold it till it dries. If you've got cold water there, that's even better. While it's still hot, dunk it in the cold water, just like forged in steel. You want to harden it the way it is. Do that a few times until you've got that good curve, and if it curves more than what's actually there, that's better. You want your lowest point in the curve to hit. And then where the lower part of the ankle is, you're going to do the same thing again, but you're going to be bending the other way. So what you're going to end up with is an S-wave that's going to match up with that curve in there. Once you've got this S-wave, make sure you've got a pencil and you're marking your armor, because you don't want to cut both of them the same direction. Most of us, what we do is we put our cut side to the inside of our calf. So this would be my right, so that when it closes over, what seam there is will be in the inside of the shin, and you're really not going to notice it. Alright, so after you've marked it opposite, figured out which one's going to be left, which one's going to be right, and you've got your front strut in there matched and hardened to where it's going to need to be, clamp it into place on the inside as close to that edge as you can make it. Once you've got that there, you're going to need to go and out of your ABS, don't do this out of hips, you want this to be ABS for the strength. You're going to cut triangles that are going to match up. You're going to need a flat side that'll go onto the shim itself, or on that front piece you're making, and then you're going to need it so that it matches up with the wall there. So you're going to have little grinding and little cutting so that you've got two good surfaces meeting for each part. I used 9 of them on the inside. You can see in here I've got them spaced out about 1.5 inches apart. I think this is 14 inches long through here. I've got 9. You can do the math, figure that out. But you want it so that each of these, when it's bracing up, is taking its own weight and working on the two around it. You don't want it to be too deep because it'll bang into your shin. This was a good angle and a good width for my leg. If you've got thicker legs, you might need to curve this triangle a little bit. Alright, so once you've got all 9 of your triangles cut and you know where each one's going to fit, and remember you've got this clamp down on here so that it's not sliding around. You got it clamped in place. Once you know where they're all fit, you can number them, letter them, so that you know where each one is going. Get your Devcon, mix up a good amount, get it on there thick. You want a thick bead. I would recommend putting it on your triangle, not into the piece, because what we don't want is we don't want the glue getting into the original front section here, because we're going to be doing a cutaway. So get it in there, you get it good. If you're really worried about this, you can put a piece of saran wrap. You can tape a piece of saran wrap on this section. That'll keep the Devcon from attaching to it. Not a bad idea. Get that on there, and then start gluing in your pieces. You want to make sure you've got one as far up to the top as you can get it, and as far down to the bottom as you can get it, and then spaced out evenly there along the length of the shin. Let it sit, let it dry, give it the full 24 hours. Once it's been in for 24 hours, you're going to go around to the front and make a line just where it starts to curve down. That's where you're going to cut. Don't cut deep. You need to be in control of the blade as you're cutting, because you don't want to cut into those triangles you just made. So you can see where I cut, I kept it just on the curved side so it's got good aesthetics, but there's hardly any lip there. Okay, so that when we meet it, it'll sit right over the top and give it just a little bit overhang. Once you cut away, you're going to have just this section loose, okay? And then you'll also have this section loose. So you're going to end up with 3 pieces of your shin here. Figure out where in this process you're going to need your caps. I had to take off about an inch, 3/4 of an inch to an inch. You're going to have to shim something. If you got huge calves, if your calves are big enough to fit this, good for you. You should play football or push monster trucks when they run out of gas, because that is an enormous calf. But it's accurate to the armor, so you're going to need to shim some. I take off the front section. It's got more of this calf that slopes down. It's going to be an easier sand later on, so I cut off of the front. Cut off a 3/4 inch to an inch piece off each side, and then you're going to do your normal shimming. So, you know, I cut my section off here, I cut my section off here, label them if you're going to take a minute in between. Glue them on the back side first. Lots of glue so that we've got a good bond. Alright, left and right side. We've got our front in 2 pieces now. This has been cut away. This has got the shim hardening in it with the triangles holding it on there. While that is separated and away from everything else, you're going to go ahead and fill that entire seam with Devcon. Squish it down in there, get a good fill all the way up to the surface so that when you look down it, the glue sticks out farther than the plastic. This is going to be sanded down later. Like I said, this Devcon, it sands the same as plastic, and it'll make it much easier, because if you try to do Bondo work with this, Bondo is not real strong. This we know will actually be stronger than the plastic. So fill the whole thing with Devcon and get that seam to match up. Once we sand it later, you'll get a really nice fit right on there, and we're going to use that Velcro. It's going to suck it right down onto there, and you can of course round this edge with sandpaper later on, and it'll make a nice seam for you. I know I didn't show a lot. I've talked through a lot of it just because it's a long process. It would be too long a video to show you all the individual steps here, but I've showed you the end product. You're going to have a left and right seam, your front edge seam with your triangles holding this, and remember, you are manufacturing this piece. This is not organic to the leg. Hips, if you can find it, HIPS. If you're using the ABS, heat gun, just remember when ABS does get to that melt point, it goes quick, so you don't want to melt a hole through it or make it stringy. You just want to make it flexible get it in the position it needs to be in, and then let it harden in that position. That is the shins. If there's questions or something's not working for you on that, go ahead and drop me off a message, and I'll try to come up with a solution for you. But if you're doing a front back calf, this is the best way I found to do it. I want to throw a shout out to my buddy Rob, who helped me think this one out, because I was stumped, and it's been a couple of days since I posted a video. This has been a project over the weekend. So that is our completed calf, and we're going to skip the knee for right now, because the knee is going to be magnets and some leather and some different fabrication, so there's really not of assembly on that part. So we'll come back to the knee, and then in part 12 we're going to go ahead and move into the chest and back assembly.